Innocent, my son. His mother screamed loud. I buried you 10 years ago. What are you doing here in the land of the living? You are dead. So immediately, Innocent turned to his mother, then to his wife Uju. A single dark tear fell from his eye. He said, I only wanted to be a husband to you, Uju. I only wanted to give you the grandchildren you have always wanted. As his mother screamed his name the third time, he disappeared. His children began to cry, and Uju fell to her knees. He was finally gone. The silence in the supermarket was deafening. Uju sat on the cold floor, clutching the white linen suit. It was still warm, smelling of that same mixture of fresh earth and expensive cologne. Her children were screaming, reaching for a father who had turned into smoke. Innocent's mother sat in the corner, shaking and chanting prayers in a language Uju did not understand. Then the police came, but what could they do? There was nobody, no struggle, just a video from the security cameras that showed a man standing 1 second and a pile of clothes the next. The footage went viral, and by the next morning, Uju was known as the ghost's widow. But the real terror started when Uju returned to their mansion. The house felt heavy. The expensive furnitures, the gold-trimmed mirrors, and the plush carpets, everything Innocent had bought for her, now felt like they were watching her. That night, she heard the sound of footsteps in the hallway. She bolted the door, clutching her 3 children in fear. But then, her son looked at the empty corner of the room and smiled. Daddy said to tell you he is sorry, the boy whispered. Uju's heart nearly stopped. Where is Daddy, Chidi? He is in the garden, the boy replied. He says it is too cold in the ground and he wants to come back inside. Uju was so terrified, and she quickly called Innocent's mother. The old woman arrived at the house with a local priest. She looked at the mansion and wept. This house was not built with money, she whispered. It was built with a contract. My son was so desperate to live the life he missed that he made a deal with the gatekeepers of the dead. The priest began to sprinkle holy water, but as he reached the master bedroom, the mirrors in the house began to crack simultaneously. A voice, hollow and echoing like it was coming from the bottom of a well, filled the rooms. I gave her everything, the voice roared. I gave her the life she prayed for, and I also wanted to give my mother grandchildren as she had always wanted. Why did you call me back to the dark? Suddenly, the supermarket Innocent had opened for Uju caught fire in the middle of the night. But it was not normal fire. The flames were blue. As the business burned, the luxury items in Uju's house began to rot. The gold turned to rust iron. The silk curtains, they all turned to rags. Uju realized the truth. Everything Innocent gave her was tied to his presence. If he couldn't stay, nothing he brought could remain. But there was one thing that did not disappear. The children. The priest pulled Uju aside. The wealth is gone, Uju. The house will fall. But the children, they are half of this world and half of his. They are the bridge, and he will keep coming back for them. As Uju packed her bags to flee to another state to start a fresh life, she looked in the rearview mirror of the car. In the back seat, sitting between her children, was a shimmering shadow in the shape of a man. He did not have a face, but she felt his gaze on her. He wasn't going to let them go. He had paid the price to be a father, and he intended to keep what was his, even if he had to drag them across the veil to do it. Uju's foot slammed on the brake, but the pedal went soft, like stepping into mud. The car did not stop. It accelerated, the engine roaring with a sound that resembled a human groan. Daddy says, "Don't be afraid, Mommy," her son whispered. His eyes glazed over. He is taking us to the big house he built for us in the quiet place. Uju looked at the rearview mirror again. The shadow was no longer just a blur. It was taking shape. She could see the outline of Innocent's jaw, but where his eyes should have been, there was only a flickering light of a dying star. The air inside the car became thick with a smell of wet earth. "Innocent, let us go," Uju screamed with tears in her eyes. "You are dead. You don't belong here anymore." The shadow leaned forward, and for a second, Uju felt a cold breath against her ear. "I did it for you and my mother." The voice vibrated through her bones. "I cheated death so you would never taste hunger and to give my mother the grandchildren she had always wanted. Now we all stay together." Suddenly, the car door flew open. Innocent's aged mother, who had been following in a taxi with the priest, pulled alongside them. The priest leaned out of the window, clutching a calabash of sanctified water and a handful of soil from Innocent's actual grave in the village. "Innocent," the priest roared over the wind. "The debt is paid. You cannot take what belongs to the son." The priest threw the grave soil towards Uju's car. As the sand hit the metal, the car screeched to a halt, the tires smoking. The shadow in the back seat let out a piercing cry, a sound of heartbreak and rage. Uju quickly grabbed her children and scrambled out of the car, running towards the priest. She looked back and saw the car began to sink into the asphalt, as if the road was turning into a swamp. Innocent stood by the sinking car, his form flickering. He was not a monster. He looked like the man she fell in love with at the fruit shop. Sad, lonely, and desperate. "Uju," he called out, his voice fading. "The children. Don't let them forget my name, please." With a final flash of blue light, the car, the suit, and the man all vanished into the ground. Silence returned to the dark highway. Then, months later, Uju moved to Lagos to start afresh. She started her fruit business again and became very, very successful. But she never remarried. People say that her children were the smartest in school, but they have a strange habit. Every year, on the anniversary of the day their father vanished, they go to the garden and leave a glass of fresh fruit juice on the ground. By morning, the glass is always empty and the scent of expensive cologne lingers in the air. Now we have finally come to the end of this wonderful story. But I want us to know that shortcuts to success often come with a spiritual debt that your descendants will have to pay for. Never be so desperate for a miracle that you forget to check where the miracle is coming from. We have to know that some gifts are just baits to pull us into darkness. And remember, not every handsome stranger is looking for a wife. Some are looking for a way back to the living. Kindly tell us in the comment section, is Uju's husband a loving father or a vengeful spirit? And what happens to the children who are born of the living and the dead? I want to know in the comment section what your thoughts are. But don't forget to subscribe to Kim's African Tales for more stories like this. Like and share this story to your family members and friends. And I will see you in the next.